A very warm welcome to all of you who have joined us online via Zoom, YouTube, or Facebook. My name is Eva Korb, and together with my colleague Katarina Kruchkova, we have coordinated this project over the past year. We are here today to officially launch the online exhibition Bygone Nearby. We meant to meet in person today, but as you know, due to the coronavirus, the entire result of the project had to be moved online instead of to an art space as previously planned. Now, what is this project actually about? Bygone Nearby is a collaborative project bringing together schools from across Poland, Germany, and Ukraine under the topic of displacement. We wanted to commemorate the end of World War II 75 years ago. Pupils from 8 schools visited in or near their hometown sites or villages which had been greatly affected by the war. Some of these sites barely show or tell the history of their past today. Through the medium of photography, the pupils wanted to make the past visible again. They researched the history behind those buildings and sites with the help of their teachers and a professional historian from each country. Together with Jakob Ganselmeier, a German photographer, they learned in workshops how to capture their research in pictures. The results of these pupils' research and photographers led to the online exhibition we are opening today. The online platform does not merely present the final outcomes, but gives additional insight into the participatory process that led to these photographs. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our partners for helping us find the participating schools, the Oppenheim Poland, the EF Kuras Institute in Ukraine, the Stiftung Genshagen in Germany, and the Mistecki Arsenal in Kiev, who helped to create this online exhibition with Fotino Studio in the end. This event today will mainly be featuring the pupils who are at the heart of this project. You will have the possibility in the other Zoom room to actually ask them questions afterwards. But before diving in, I'm handing over to the director of the Goethe Institute now, Fabian Mühlthaler. Please.
Good evening to everybody. It is my very great pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you, participants, experts, and visitors, on behalf of the Goethe Institute Ukraine, to this special online opening of a very special international exhibition project. We are dealing with a very sensitive, tragic, and difficult topic, the devastation of war and displacement. And 75 years after the end of the Second World War, it is touching to see with how much passion and energy young people from 3 countries, Ukraine, Poland, and Germany, approach this difficult topic with the means of photography. My name is Fabian Mühlthaler, and since just 2 months, I'm the director of Goethe Institute Ukraine, who is carrying this project. For me, as a German, whose professional and also personal life is all about creating understanding and dialogue beyond cultural and national borders, the Second World War is always present. And of course, it is always a burden. I observe in my own country how it gets more and more difficult to pass on the knowledge and emotion of and about what happened 75 or 80 years ago to the younger generation. New forms have to be found because it is important to pass it on in order to prevent similar things to happen again. In our project, we have explored the possibilities of the form of photography in order to achieve it. And even though I would of course prefer to meet you all in person and in a real physical space, I somehow think it is good and appropriate to present this project in a virtual form, because as I said, new forms suitable for the young generations have to be found. My colleague Eva Korb has already told you a bit what this project is about in practice. My heartfelt thanks go out to the accompanying art experts, the teachers, to the artist Jakob Ganselmeier, and of course to the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with whose Eastern Partnership funds this project has been made possible. But of course, most of all, my thanks go out to the young people who actually made this exhibition come to life in Ukraine, Poland, and Germany. These youngsters have visited sites in or near their hometowns, which have been greatly affected by the Second World War. A war that has massively changed their towns and villages, and with it, the lives of every single person living there. Many places fell into oblivion. Their stories remain hidden and risk to be forgotten. Photography as a language may fall short in making the atrocities of the war visible, but it can enable us to position ourselves in relation to them and lets us feel and take notice. Our project is designed to make young people ask themselves, do I remember? How do I remember? What is it that we have all in common? Can I interact with buildings and create some sort of dialogue, or is it in the end more of a dialogue with myself? We were surprised and very happy to see what kinds of questions came up during the creative process. Even though most of you are too young to have listened to the stories of your great-grandparents, you managed to make the connection and ask yourself those important questions. You allowed yourselves to be moved by the past and you made it visible again. Thank you for that. And most of all, thank you for sharing your experiences with us. May we all have a great exhibition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fabian. We are very grateful that this project was funded by the Eastern Partnerships Program from the Federal Foreign Office in Germany. And I'm introducing to you now Katharina Schaub-Karmann from the German Embassy in Ukraine. Dear Katharina, you have the floor now.
Thank you so much, Eva. Well, good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you tonight. So I will just address a few short words to everybody because we're all curious to hear more from the pupils themselves, actually. First of all, let me just congratulate you to this great project and this exhibition. I think it is really an amazing concept behind this project. And this year, though it has been difficult, has probably made it even more interesting, giving you a chance to learn all about this kind of digital formats and actually to all of us, because it's new to all of us, not only you who have actively worked on it, but as spectators, it's amazing as well. So thank you for that. And yeah, the only thing that I really would like to stress is this experience of diving into the history of your own hometown, I think is a very precious one. I do remember when I was a pupil myself that I took part in competitions and projects like this. And I think it teaches us most of all to see what is close to us every day with a fresh perspective, because sometimes we tend to overlook the things that are closest to us, and in our daily lives we really don't notice them so much. So I think it is a very different experience from just reading in a textbook or listening to a teacher at school. Sorry to all the teachers, but it's true. If you're working on things yourself, if you're researching really your own surroundings, maybe the history even of your family or some relative or an organization that is close to you, then I think this sticks with you for a long, long time, and it's a much deeper learning experience. So yes, to reflect on history and exchange different points of view, as Fabian has also just said, is very important to us. Of course, history is always alive, and especially the events of the past in the period of the Second World War are for us always an issue that we would like to work on, and that we would like to stress how important it is to us to also communicate with young people about it and make sure that it's not forgotten. So thank you again for participating. It's a pleasure to being able to support this project. And yes, you are all part of our aim to bring societies and active citizens closer together. You're part of a big transnational family. And so I hope it was a good experience for you. And I'm curious to hear what it was all about. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Katharina. As previously mentioned, the pupils will be the main act today. However, this project would not have been possible without the 3 historians we had on board from Poland, Ukraine, and Germany: Piotr Szpryla, Nadia Ufimtseva, and Dominik Pick. That the photographs, however, taken by the pupils look as professional as they do, that was the work of Jakob Ganselmeier, the creative head of the project. Thank you, Jakob, for investing so much time and effort and for empowering the pupils to speak their mind through pictures. Thank you very much. It was a great experience working with you, and I hope we can continue doing so. But now the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I can just congratulate on the whole project. I will start actually I will start really selfish and actually start with what I have learned from you from each city. So I will start in the beginning, and I have learned from the pupils in Berislav what actually is a good picture and what is a bad picture. Nobody has a clear idea like these people. It's amazing, like they know immediately. I'm always struggling, they know. From the pupils in Kovel, actually, I know how much effort you do to learn about your own city. I know I have never seen such amazing teachers and pupils in a group. It was really a pleasure, and it was my first city in Ukraine. I learned from the pupils in Sumy, but I can provoke emotional stress. But I also learned that actually the pupils from Sumy are much better in drawing than I am, and that they are still stay motivated if things don't work. I learned from Warsaw something really basic, and I just can't say one thing that I've learned from you, that pupils are often much more smart, much smarter than I am, much smarter. Really, they're amazing. Like it's crazy. I learned from Bigoray that history never ends and how a displaced cemetery looks like. The city Bigoray is really hidden, and it's really interesting to dive in their history. I learned from Glogowek about the intersections between the German and Polish history and how much I like this area there. I learned from Berlin how much fun photography can be. It was a great pleasure to work with you, and it was really interesting to dive into the city's history. I learned from Marburg that sometimes, in some rare moments, I actually miss my high school time and the great class energy that you have. I learned from the historians, Piotr, how to hold the most amazing monologues. And I learned, actually, this guy is amazing. He has a huge knowledge. And it was such a great pleasure with working with him. I learned from Nadia. Not only Nadia and me, we spent a lot of time because in Ukraine, every sleeping wagon, we shared the section. So she actually witnessed how I watched the UEFA Champions League final in a sleeping wagon in the summer. She witnessed basically quite a lot. It was such a great pleasure to work with her. She actually had such an impact on the whole project by the whole dialogue to the buildings. And it is amazing how she researches. I learned from Dominik how to work actually with all the difficult cities. He's half Polish, half German, so it's already a mixture between two countries, and this was really good to work with you.
And we're having a little technical problem because what else would be an online event without any technical problems? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hand over the word, what we actually intended to do, to two of the historians, to Piotr from Poland and to Nadia from Ukraine. And maybe, if we're lucky, Jakob comes back and he can finish later on. How about that? So please, Piotr and Nadia.
Hello, everybody. I'm Piotr Przybyła. I'm a historian and I teach at the University of Wrocław, and I've been responsible for the historical input in the Polish part of the project. And now the long monologue is gonna start. Jakob is here. Now my monologue starts. No, there won't be any monologue. No monologues today. I hand over to Nadia in Kiev.
Thank you, Piotr. Hello, everyone. I'm Nadia Ufimtseva, and I'm one of the project historians. It is a great pleasure to be a part of such a project. It's very fascinating and important in many aspects. As a historian, I dare to say that we will never know all there is to know about World War II, Nazism, and all victims and persecuted persons. Nevertheless, such a project helps us to add more to the whole history with all those local stories and memories. This project united its students, their teachers, experts, artists from Ukraine, Poland, and Germany. In the project, there are amazing stories about buildings, sites, places, and people from capitals, big cities, and small towns. And also, the project is about past and history. In my opinion, in fact, the project is about our present and about us. It is about our memory of war events and displaced people, and it is about neglecting and oblivion and how we can uncover those history. The students made a remarkable job with their pieces of research by taking photos, by asking questions and reflecting on their own thoughts, feelings, and experience. Despite all the uncertainty that the pandemic brought on us, the project was realized only thanks to amazing people. Evan, Katerina, and the whole team from the Goethe Institute in Kiev, artist photographer Jakob, historians and experts, and of course, thanks to students and their teachers. For every visitor to the project website, for this online version, there a wonderful journey across cities and towns in Ukraine, Poland, and Germany is waiting for you. So I'm happily inviting you to start such a journey. And I give a word to the first student from Berislav in Ukraine, to Nastya.
Hi everyone, thank you for your coming and nice to be here. My name is Nastya and I will tell you about building in my small town, Berislav. And this year our team, it's me, Lisa and Ivan, participated in this project in the wall Speak and First, and we explored and photographed one of the oldest buildings in our town. Now you can see these pictures. It's UPK, educational and professional complex, and there are many different clubs for children now. And this building looks old, but at the time powerful. It hides many secrets. This building was built as a military office, and in the cellar housed a prison. And by the period of Second World War, was one of the most tragic period in our town, and a lot of people were kept and killed in the basement of this building, and prisoners were executed outside the town, and places of mass graves in the site also. And now you can see a portrait of an old woman. She, one of the prisoners, was resident of our city, who saved one of our soldiers from death, and her name is Sukhomlin Pelageya Naumyevna. We interviewed her granddaughter, and she told stories about this one, that despite the terrible condition and her, but she survived. And she's so brave and kind, and more you can read here about her family and life. You can read all with her granddaughter and watch some videos. And summarizing the above said, the walls of this building told us a lot, and this story especially. And I'm glad to be involved in that project. It always, history must be eternal. It must be forgotten. Thanks for the skills and Manuel. Thank you for these days with you. It's important, especially for me and my team, and for being with us. And now Mariana waiting to tell about it. Mariana.
Hi. I'm Mariana from Cole, and now I part of significant project after the end of the war. I will speak concerning history of my city and country. I thought that my holidays wouldn't have any remarkable moments. However, luckily I was mistaken, and those 2 days became an essential experience for me. Our group consisted of 6 students of 10-11 forms who were under the leadership by the professionals, a German photographer Jakob, and a historian and a teacher of Hebrew at National University Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, Nadia. In 2 days, we managed to just a German hospital for soldiers. We had an amazing opportunity to enrich our knowledge of the historical background of the building. We also wrote some letters to and from Kovalchanka, and junior students made some drawings of the building. Apart from this, we had an amazing opportunity to discover new things about ourselves and receive new skills in the photography area. We were equipped with the state-of-the-art technologies like new cameras and light facilities, so that we could understand how the light actually functions and how to make the right perspective and composition. Also, we visited a place of excavation of almost 500 military men who died in the hospital, and later they were buried behind Kovalchanka. Nowadays, the territorial field is used for local music school. It is said that they were all young men aged 20 to 30 years old. Later, their remains were buried in a military cemetery in Lviv region and moved to it. Secondly, we were at Koval's human factory, which used to be the great synagogue before the World War II started, and during the war it was used as Nazi ghetto. The Jews were imprisoned, and later they were brought by train to Bakhmut, where they were murdered. Then there was Taras Shevchenko House of Culture, which was built in 1970 on the area that used to be the new Jewish cemetery, and the place where nearly 6,000 Jews, mostly women and children, were murdered. Nowadays, the House of Culture is used as a venue for concerts, sports, and different cultural events. Traces of the cemetery can be found on the territory. In addition, we took some pictures of the Koval railway station designed by Alexander Vorobitsky at the beginning of 20th century. It used to be an impressive building, but unfortunately it was destroyed by the soldiers during the war. During the World War II, trains shortly stopped at Koval railway station before moving on, and the soldiers moved to the east and the victims moved to the west. Finally, we visited the mass grave of the Jews located in Bakhmut forest, 7 kilometers from Koval. Thanks to the efforts of the Jewish community, the memorial and several mass graves were built there in 2014 to commemorate mostly 8,000 Jews who were shot by Nazi soldiers in 1942. Bakhmut is one of 20 sites of mass executions in Ukraine that were transformed into memorial and information centers. Overall, in my view, Nadia and Jakub were actually the keys to make this project successful. So I'm really grateful to Goethe Institute for participating in such a beautiful project, and our teacher Victoria Harpus, who involved me in it. And I'm giving the next floor to Anastasia from Zoom. Thank you for your attention.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anastasia Gorzhilova, and welcome to the digital presentation of the Bygone Nearby project in Sumy, Ukraine. In the course of the project, my teammates, Irina Akentьeva, Anastasia Latkovska, Valeria Dashkin, and I were trying to give an answer to the questions: how can we make the invisible buildings in our area visible again? And how can we draw the public attention to their history and their innovation? So, in this presentation, I'm going to provide you with an insight of how the project unfolded here in our city and how the team of 4 uncovered the stories of its invisible buildings. Why should I care about a particular building, and why is it important at all? Do I actually want to challenge myself to use photography as a tool to answer all these questions? How present is history nowadays? Who would be the author of these images, and what would he or she try to tell through them? Are we specifically up for this sort of challenge? The way I see it, we totally are. Looking back at the history of the Church of the Annunciation of the Blessed Virgin Mary, one has to denote that, notwithstanding its initial function as a temple, it got to play a wide range of roles in its lifetime. During the Second World War, the temple was open for some time, as most German soldiers were Catholic. Unfortunately, though, after the Stalinists returned to the city, the church was closed. What follows is quite an uncharacteristic sequence of events for the church, as it was first used as a regional museum and then as a sports hall for the Sumy Pedagogical Institute and the School Number 8. In some respects, these metamorphoses display the fact of religion suppression happening in the former Soviet Union, as a church was turned into everything one could possibly make use of, but not a church. It wasn't even until 1994 that it was finally returned to believers. The homestead of Khorotonenko is another invisible building, standing in the heart of Sumy, yet shrouded in mystery for the vast majority of the city's population. When Ivan Khorotonenko built a homestead at Troitsky Street in Sumy, it first served as a home and an office building of a store. Later on, it was used as a children's hospital and then as a public hospital. The way I personally see it is that this was exactly the most significant function the building could possibly carry out, as in times as well as economical and psychological collapses, what people living in a world plagued by wars and conflicts needed most was help and solace. Afterwards, it used to be a finance center, a sanatorium, an office, and then a hospital again. In this day and age, though, this noble building is a no-name. Hidden from the public eye due to the lack of maintenance, it stands still on its location at Troitsky Street, unable to speak, yet willing to tell about itself. Moving on to the Sumy Food College. In the middle of the 19th century, Sumy became a major center of sugar production. It played an utterly important role in the development of the city. Therefore, Ivan Khorotonenko founded several sugar factories here. Those factories needed well-educated specialists and trade managers, so Khorotonenko additionally established a food college for them. The college itself was opened on the 1st of October 1928. Its students studied law, economics, calligraphy. Its design was modern and typical for the architectural style of educational institutions at that time. But what future will the 3 buildings experience in the end, and which of the roles are they going to take on at long last? These questions, however, are yet to be answered. Thank you so much for your attention. And now I forward the word to Olga from Warsaw.
Hello everyone, and welcome, thank you for listening. I'm Olga, and I'm part of a group of 4 students from the Willy Brandt Schule in Warsaw. That would be Mikołaj, Igor, Helena and Anastasia, and of course our history teacher, Mr. Stüwe. We are very grateful to be able to participate in this project, work with both Jakob on the photography and artistic side, as well as Piotr Przybyła on the historian side. Our original plan was to meet in July and capture the picture during sunrise hour. However, that did not work out due to COVID, and we had to postpone the meeting until mid-September. Still, we managed to meet up and, maintaining all the necessary safety measures, capture the shots that, in our opinion, capture the heart of what we intended to show of Warsaw. All those pictures were taken in Muranów, a city district named after by an Italian architect from the name of the Murano Island in Venice. It is a neighborhood in the districts of Śródmieście and Wola, quite central in Warsaw. In the interwar period, the district was quite well developed when it was inhabited primarily by Jews, and this also why during the occupation of Warsaw by Nazi Germany, the ghetto was created mostly in Muranów and in the surrounding districts. As both the Warsaw and the ghetto uprising, as well as repeated bombings, destroyed Warsaw completely, none of the buildings of previous Muranów survived. You have to imagine that all that was left were rubble, and the streets were just narrow paths between heaps thereof. What we can see in this picture now are mostly realist blocks built in the 1950s and 60s. During our project, we wanted to capture the history that might not necessarily be visible at first. I mean, what do you see? You see trees, windows, housing blocks, stairs. However, when you look at the picture further and when you get to know a bit about the history, you don't only notice the larger things, like, for example, the Warsaw memorial of the ghetto uprising. You also notice the smaller things, like, for example, all the stairs leading up to the buildings. Well, they had to be constructed because the buildings are built on a foundation of the rubble that was left after the war, which was never removed, and what is Muranów now, quite literally and figuratively, stands on the foundation of what Muranów once was and was destroyed. We thank you very much, Jakob, for giving us the ability to capture this through photography, and it was really interesting for me to see, as a person who walks on those streets every day and doesn't really have a second thought always, to see how through the camera lens you can gain a different, also a historical perspective of what hides under the buildings. We also thank you, Piotr, for showing us the historical aspect of it, even the less known parts. And we of course thank Mr. Stüwe, for our history teacher, for introducing us to this project and enabling us to participate in it. And I give my word to Mr. Stüwe, who would like to say a few words right now.
Yes. Thank you very much, Olga, and all of you. Olga introduced me already. I'm history teacher in the German school Warsaw, and it's already, I'd like to say, in our team already. I'm a teacher from Germany, Polish students, Romanian background. So we united already these 3 countries in our project. And it's a pleasure for me to say on behalf of all the teachers that as you did already, would like just to thank the organizers, the wonderful teams of pupils who did an amazing effort and can present proudly their results. for us as a German Willy Brandt Schule. It's an honor to participate in this project that reveals the horrible impacts of history in special places between Germany and the Ukraine, and as I said, Warsaw is in the middle of it, so we in our school we are very aware of the history and the horrible events that took place in Warsaw during the World War, especially the Ghetto Uprising 43 and the Warsaw Uprising 44, and so in the end, it's we can say that our community of organizers, historians, photographers, teachers, and pupils, we are able now to have a deeper look into history on special places and to remember. Thank you all very much. And now I'd like again pass over to pupils to Gorgowek Oberglogau, and it's I give the word to Hania.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. I'm Hania Ćwięczek from Racowice Śląskie, and I was working on this project with Maja Gerstenberg, Aleksandra Poręba, and Szymon Reiber. We have chosen 3 monuments to work on this project. The first of them is the synagogue in Głogówek. The synagogue was built in 1864 in Oberglogau, which was at that time in the Kingdom of Prussia. It was designed by a local architect, Wilhelm Frankel. It was truly rebuilt in the 1930s. In 1938, during the Night of Broken Glass, it was set on fire and destroyed. After the Second World War, the building was used as a warehouse. Next, in the building, there was a Pevex store where Western goods were sold in dollars and German marks were the currency. The synagogue has been an apartment building since 2008 until these days. Luckily, a few elements of the original building of the synagogue have been preserved. The next one is the railway station in Racowice Śląskie. The station in Racowice Śląskie is a special place with very extensive history. The building was built in 1874. Racowice Śląskie was a junction station. From here, trains to Silesia and even to Berlin started their way. The railway station was a witness of very tragic events related to the history of the Second World War. This is where the participants of the Death March, former prisoners of concentration camps, were transported. From here, the Germans began their journey deep into the German after the end of hostilities. To this railway building, Polish repatriates, inhabitants of the eastern borderlands, used to come. Today, the station is not such an important point on the railway map. Another and the last building that we took into consideration in the project is the castle in Głogówek. It is a former priestly residence belonging to the Silesian family. The building was built.
Я хотіла послухати Мар'яну. Вона робила оці.
I'm sorry. The castle is associated with many important events in the history of Poland. Polish King John II Casimir resided in Głogówek's castle with his wife. Another important person who stayed at the castle was Ludwig van Beethoven. Out of gratitude for his hospitality, the artist dedicated his Fourth Symphony to Francis Joachim Oppersdorf. After the Second World War, the palace was robbed. Later it served as a museum, a shelter and a shop. After the 90s, everything was closed and the castle in Głogówek is not inhabited by anyone. Working on this project helped us understand the historical events hidden in these buildings. We have chosen them to get to know better the secrets of their walls. Our project made us realize the true history, which has become very important to us. We are now motivated to share the story of the buildings with others. Let the history of these amazing places become important in the life for people who will ever hear about it. That's all on our part. Thank you very much. I hand over my voice to Agnieszka from Biłgoraj.
Hello everyone, my name is Agnieszka and today I will show you some of the photos from my city, Biłgoraj. In the project participates my two really good friends, Olivia Dudzic and Maja Zastawne. Also our amazing teachers, Alina Typko and Mrs. Eva Spustek. Tadeusz Kuźmiński, a resident of Biłgoraj, had the idea to recreate the most interesting and atypical architectural streets, houses, and buildings. One part of the project, construction of a Jewish town, is about to be completed. Here you can see some of the photos from inside of the buildings. As you can see, the work is going really well. In the town, you can also find a house of a Zurich singer. He was a Nobel Prize winner in the field of literature. You can go check out the website to find out really cool things about him and his work. Jewish Cemetery Piaski. The victims of the Holocaust are buried there. Among others, there are 4 mass graves of Jews from Biłgoraj and surrounding area. As you can see, the cemetery is in a really bad condition. The gravestones are broken and scattered all over the cemetery. GMLO Jewish Cemetery is one of the 3 Jewish cemeteries from the pre-war Biłgoraj. During the Nazi occupation, the Jewish cemetery served as a place where Jews were detained, shot, and buried. The cemetery was virtually destroyed. Human remains that were found during the earthworks were transported to another Jewish cemetery in Biłgoraj. The Jewish cemetery is commemorated by a monument located in the school square. Soche is one of the villages affected by German deportation and pacification actions that was carried out in the Zamość region by the Third Reich as a part of the General Plan East. Almost all the inhabitants died during the pacification. Only one house in Sochi survived. At the end of the alley in the cemetery, there is a monument dedicated to the victims of the pacification. The village that was supposed to disappear as a result of the pacification has been reborn and is now teeming with life. And here you can see a photo of the only house that survived the pacification. If you want to find out more cool stuff about the events or the places that I just talked about, you can go check out the website. You can also find out who took part in our project and who made it possible. Thank you very much for your attention. And now it's time for the students from Berlin to talk about their part of the project.
Hello, my name is Josiah and I am a student at the Wilhelm Bölsche School in Berlin. Our project was about forced labor in the time of the Second World War. First, we talked about at the school about the situation of people from other countries in Europe who were forced to work in Germany during the war. We have learned about the conditions of those people who lived and worked here during the war. Next, we went to an education and memory center in an old concentration camp for workers in Berlin-Schöneweide. In this camp, people who lived here came from different countries: Poles, Ukrainians, Russian, and Italian. We took several pictures in an old barrack where those people lived. We have visited a bomb shelter under the barrack too, where the people hid during the air raids. In this shelter we have seen names and other words in different languages written on the walls. Then we went to the factories of the AEG company where those people worked. The factories were built at the beginning of the 20th century by a Jewish businessman, Walter Rathenau. They were built with a yellow stone, which the architect Peter Behrens liked very much. The factories were very modern at this time. Some of them are still working today. During the war, those factories have been used by the Nazi to produce ammunition and other devices for the war. We have seen the old production halls. Today they are mostly a warehouse for different companies. For example, we have seen big metro carts and other cargoes and tools. Many of them belong to companies which could not operate because of the pandemic. At the end, we visited an industrial museum where we have seen different machines, photos, and tools used in the factories after the Second World War during the communist time. We took a lot of pictures. Thank you very much. Now we are going to Marburg. Mathilde will present the next place.
Hi, welcome. My name is Mathilde Conze, and today I'm representing my group from the Gymnasium Philippinum in Marburg with Justus Reis, Isabel Kühnelt, Maren Schulz, and of course our teacher, Mr. Rosenkötter. I would like to present to you our project on the Jägerkaserne and the Tannenberg-Kaserne in Marburg, which are two of the historic buildings we looked at in this project. I'll start with some general information about the two military barracks, just to give you an idea about their military history. The Jägerkaserne Marburg, home to the Marburger Jäger Battalion, mostly housed infantry soldiers, was a new military barrack built in 1937 specifically to prepare for the upcoming war. Troops were stationed there first to prepare for the war and eventually fight for Nazi Germany. After the war, during occupation of the Allies, Allied soldiers used the barracks, and from 1956 on, the newer buildings served as a stationing for the German Bundeswehr. The Tannenberg-Kaserne Marburg was completed in 1938 and stationed Wehrmacht soldiers until the end of the Second World War. Just like the Jägerkaserne, after the end of the war, Allied soldiers and the Bundeswehr were housed in the barracks until the 1990s. After the end of the Cold War, most of the military stationed here left Marburg. Both the Jägerkaserne and the Tannenberg-Kaserne are now used as apartments, commercial buildings, and a technology and software center in the middle of Marburg. For our group, all this information was new as well. When we first started thinking about this project, we were rather unsure about what part of Marburg we wanted to showcase and settled on the Jägerkaserne and the Tannenberg-Kaserne mostly because they just sounded interesting. But exactly this newness was what made this project so exciting. All of us were used to walking past these big building complexes that looked a little out of place. For example, we knew one was called the Jägerkaserne, but we never really connected military history with it. On the contrary, we saw it as living space, company quarters, or even a gym for basketball training. Its history had been pretty much forgotten by all of Marburg. Barely anyone remembers that it used to be the home to soldiers. So we started researching and found out so much more than we thought we would have guessed from just looking at it. We interviewed people that, for example, owned a company in the Tannenberg-Kaserne or had served in the Bundeswehr while it was stationed in Marburg and asked them about their perception of these old military barracks and how it affected the feelings on the place. Similar to us, most of the times the memories and connections to the military history were faint. When we told them about the use the barracks had had in, for example, the Second World War, or even after as Bundeswehrkaserne, it became clear that barely anyone saw the history behind the walls. Yet once one looks closer at the buildings, remains of military history can be found. For example, above the door frames there are stone reliefs of soldiers clearly visible, yet no one really notices it because no one is aware of the history. This project helped us to start looking at the buildings in a different way, no longer just being a part of Marburg, but connecting it to this project and its own history, so that now, after the project, we gain knowledge on our hometown in a perspective we had never looked at before. We'd also finally like to thank everyone who made this project possible, especially Jakob Ganselmeier and Dominic Pick, who brought Bygone Nearby closer to us from both a historic and an artistic point of view. And of course, a big thank you goes to our teacher, Mr. Rosenketter, who introduced us to the project and helped us with everything along the way. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you very much for listening, and we really invite you to explore the website yourselves. There are so many hidden treasures to be found. We're also open for questions afterwards. Just let us know. Thank you.
Hi, Mathilde, and thank you very much, everyone. I think that was a rushed, but still a very good overview about what you've accomplished over the past months. And it was very impressive, and if I dare say, I'm very proud of what you've accomplished, and I hope that's going to resonate with you for a long time. Unfortunately, we were cut off, or Jakob was cut off last time, so I wonder, Jakob, whether you're here and whether you want to finish what you actually started saying at the beginning of the session.
No, I think that the pupils basically said it all. It was a great, great pleasure working with you. What you have accomplished, your research actually, you produced images. You produced amazing images. The whole research that you have done is really rich, and it's a massive project. And I'm really, really happy that we could cooperate on that. And I think that what is so interesting about this project is, on the one hand, that if we talk about this this project, if we talk about the history, we will remember, right? So it's up to you actually, and your perspective for the future, to talk about these things. And you actually proved that you are very, very, very up for that and that challenge. And I'm amazingly, as Eva already said, proud that I was cut off. I don't know why. But in the end, it was probably for the better, because we were actually, I stopped my ironic jokes, and you actually could start talking about what is important. Thank you so much. Please ask questions, and everybody's really happy to answer them. And the pupils, again, like, it was really amazing. Thank you so much.
Right, thank you, Jakob. So I know that in another Zoom meeting there are more people, so in case there are questions coming up, please feel free to ask. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Jakob a question, because he has his channel still open. So when we asked you to join the project, what were your expectations, and in how far during the past months have these expectations been met?
To be honest, when we actually, when you wrote me the first email on the 20th of December in 2019, which is nearly 1 year ago, I didn't know exactly what you really wanted. I had no idea what kind of expanse the whole project will have. I mean, out of obvious reason, our plans changed. I would say that my expectations were basically to see how much engaged are the pupils, how much knowledge do they bring with. And at a certain moment, when I actually got the idea that the pupils will choose the buildings together with their teachers, it became super interesting for me, because in that moment, actually, the initiative of the pupils was already embedded. And from that moment on, you have to make an active move to actually, to gather this knowledge. And how experimental they did it is absolutely amazing, because they wrote letters to the buildings, they wrote fictional diaries, they made thick descriptions, they gathered research material of all kinds. And that moment, actually, we get that photography is, of course, a visual language that connects us, and also we can communicate through these images that they have taken. But it is it is actually, there was a whole research before the picture, and that's why the pictures also work so fine, because there was a whole research beforehand, and that was actually only possible because of that we met during our lockdown times in each countries online, like we do right now.
Thank you. Do you have maybe any questions, Jakob, or the other ones assembled here in the meeting? I see no hands so far. Oh, yeah, Fabian. Yes, please.
Actually, I have one. Well, thank you, first of all. Thank you very much. That has been very, very impressive. I'm always very skeptical when it comes to having exhibitions and photo exhibitions online, but it works, and this is due to your excellent work. A big thank you. What I would be interested in is the connection between the pupils in the course of this project. Has there been contact? Will you stay in touch afterwards? Are these schools now? Are these work groups? Will they stay in contact? Are there any plans? That's something that would be interesting to me.
Is this a question for me or for Eva or for the pupils?
I think more for the pupils, huh?
That's a question to all the pupils and teachers, maybe.
Anybody willing to start?
Well, I guess that it would be just an awesome idea to keep in touch and stay connected with each other even after the project is over, as we did a major amount of work to get to this stage. And I guess that if we keep in touch with each other, we might also organize some further projects in the future, which would be just amazing. We would have an opportunity to devote ourselves to history, even from other aspects, and I guess that would be an awesome idea to develop ourselves in this field.
Thank you, Nastya. Does anybody else want to say something? If not, I received a first question. And the question is, why did you decide to present all pictures in black and white instead of color as they were shot, I presume?
That was partly an answer that I decided with the pupils together. Conceptually, I know we decided that actually we don't want the other way around. We decided to show these pictures in black and white because one, we actually, especially in the gray tones, where is the process as a process color gray, between black and white, between the extremes, we can tell stories really easily, and we also can make bridges between the projects. That was one reason. The other reason was that obviously we were planning in the beginning to take pictures and produce pictures in the summer. And for that, I always prefer black and white because otherwise we have to stand up really, really early or have only a few hours during the day, because otherwise the light is really harsh. So that's more a technical question. But black and white gives us actually the freedom to look at the gray tones and also to remind ourselves that these buildings are now, like we see them now, and we have to deal with them actually now, and they are witnesses from now.
All right, thank you, Jakob. Yeah, if I may ask one more question, first of all to the pupils. I'm thinking, okay, this was a very intense period for all of us, of course, with Corona and everything, but I know that many of you are about to leave school and start basically a new life, a new part of life. So I asked myself, in about 10 years' time, what do you think you will remember from this project? Yeah, okay. I see your hand. Let me look, but yeah, please.
Well, I would have to say that what I think I will remember most
well, I can't say in 10 years, but it's my main takeaway that I think will stay with me for longer is that when you see a particular place with a particular kind of building and something that you may not think much of, that it's important to remember what was there before it, because places get rebuilt, but buildings get repurposed. But that doesn't mean that the history isn't there if you choose to look. And to consciously look for the history, even if it isn't visible at first glance, I think that would be what will stay for me with the rest of my life.
Thank you, Olga. Isabel, yeah.
And I feel like even though we weren't able to meet in person and really talk, I will really take away like how you can connect people with pictures and history especially. And even through this meeting, I feel like I'm really taking a lot away from this and learning a lot, especially with like how you can talk to people even though you don't really know them or have met them, just through a topic that connects you. I feel like that's really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah, so one part is as well, as Jakob was just as too nice to let me know, something that we definitely want to add before I get to another question that has been asked in the other chat. You will all notice when you get on the website, when you go through the exhibition, that if you don't move your cursor or click on something, then after 15 seconds, everything starts to get dark. Everything's slowly fading to black, and which is basically a powerful image of what we try to convey with, if you don't look at what is actually there, if you don't focus on the history, if you don't talk about it, then everything's slowly fading to black. So yeah, in case you wonder, no, it's not your browser, it's not your computer, it is the website, it is the exhibition. And I'm just looking up there. Yeah, Justus wanted to say something. Yes, please.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Justus. I'm from Marburg, Germany. And I think that one of the things that I will always remember are the interviews with the soldiers who served in the barracks. And, you know, just listening to them and getting to know their stories was very touching and provided a great learning experience, actually.
Thank you. Does anybody else wanted to add something on this part? Otherwise, I'm going to read out the question that was asked in the other chat, which was, how would the project have worked without Corona? What was the idea? Well, the idea was that we will all meet up here in Kyiv, actually. In October was the idea, to then have a real live exhibition in a nice art space with actually printed photographs with more augmented reality elements, something interactive. So, but of course, we were forced to find plan B and sometimes plan C and then plan D, but we somehow managed, and we're very glad that at least that was part of, maybe part of the one heart chamber of the project, was that Jakob and the historians were able to travel from city to city, from village to village with the pupils to actually find those places and do research and get up sometimes, I think still, Jakob, at 5 a.m. in the morning, regardless, to take good pictures. So that happened regardless. But of course, we couldn't risk to have everybody travel here to Kyiv and actually do a live presentation of the results. So we had to switch everything up and we moved online, which we found out in the process actually gives us sometimes even more possibilities. Jakob, I don't know whether you wanted to add something.
Yeah, I think at this moment we have to say a big thank you to our programmers, Lara and Ivan from Fortinus, who did a great job, who installed this website and were really last minute, because obviously, as everybody, nobody knows how we should deal with Corona. I know that all the schools asked us constantly, what is the plan, and we had for a really long time actually not a clear answer how we should go. So it's actually also a big thank you to Goethe Institute and IFA, who were really pushy and were actually pushy for these programmers, because it was not as easy as you could imagine to get them, and they did a great job and were really working fully on it.
Yeah, I'm good at being pushy when I want something for the group. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the website as much as we do. We know that there are still a few bugs, so it still needs some nips and tucks, but we're nearly there, because like I said, the idea was to have an exhibition in October, and now we have the website in November, which is really good. So yeah, thank you to Fortinos for that. They did a really good job. Now, is there any questions you'd like to ask each other? Because I'd like to open the round. It's not just us, of course. Feel free to just open your mic and say something, or in the other chat there are no questions anymore either. Maybe then one last question to the teachers, because they've been awfully silent, which is rather rare for teachers. I dare say. So kind of the same question to you, but just a bit different than for the pupils. For you as teachers, what was the biggest takeaway for you from this project? And that's to all the teachers. Norbert, please don't feel forced to answer.
But I can start if you want. It's first of all, I feel now we are all part on one project, and I feel a kind of team building between us, and I'm so sorry that we can't meet in person now. I'm really sorry. I had seen all the work you did, and I don't know this special place in Kobel. I've got no real idea about everything. It would be a huge pleasure to talk to you in person, and also to make it possible for the pupils to meet. That's one of my strong feelings I just have at this moment, because I think we share a kind of team building at this moment. And the other thing that's clear, my deep impression are two things. The one is, as everyone told already, that I live now in Warsaw for more than 7 years, that I have this deeper insight into history and this building, as Olga explained. That's the same for me. And it's also a kind of a team building also between the pupils that did the work with me, our team for 2 days in Muranov. That was quite a good moment that I will remember for my work as a teacher abroad during my time in Warsaw. So I'm quite happy with that I could participate. Thank you all.
Thank you, Norbert. I don't know whether anybody wants to add something.
Yes, I would like to add. I would like to agree with Norbert and say that for us as teachers, it's very important to establish connections between us teachers and between students for the future. I'm really fascinated by the idea of Goethe Institute project. It's a historic project, and it made me understand that history is really important, and not only history, but also the history of the building important, because of the buildings which we have researched during the project, they also have something to tell us, because they witnessed ordinary people with their lives, with their beliefs, with their hopes. And it's really interesting to research that part of things. Also, I would like to say that our students benefited a lot from this project, because they researched a lot, they found some archive pictures, they gathered a lot of information, they went online to search for information there, they met people, and the most important takeaway I would like to take with me is the idea of the project. And in spite of all the challenges we have and face nowadays, it's important to go forward and to be helpful and to be supportive with each other. I'm very thankful and grateful to Goethe Institute, to our historians, to other teachers, colleagues, people who supported us in this research and who made this project and this exhibition possible. Thank you so much. It was a valuable experience to me and to my students, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. All right. I'm having a look if anybody else wants to say something. Jakob, you have opened your mic. Do you want to say something? Oh, okay. All right. I'll have a look. No, that is it.
Eva,
yeah.
If I may.
Yeah, Nadia, of course, yes.
Because I have to confess that I'm utterly envy of Jakob, because I think he is the only one person who visited all places. And I think it's not fair, because I personally would like to see all places, all sites in person, and to talk to pupils, to students, and to ask them not only to read the information on the website, but also ask them questions about their feelings. So my question will be for teams of students and their teachers, and maybe my colleagues, historians, and you, of course. Eva, would you like to invite us in some future? And what would you like to show us the first thing of all places that you already studied and have researched and everything?
So I think the question goes out to the pupils, right, and the teachers. Which city you would like to visit first, if you were able to? Maybe everybody's scared to travel right now, Nadia. I'm not sure.
That's why I'm talking about
in the future.
In the future, yes. I see Isabel. Yep.
Yeah, Isabel.
I actually think that's a really, really great idea, and we already talked about it in our group that we would really like to meet up maybe in a year or so when it's like safer and possible again. Even though we all might be in other places studying or doing something else by then, since we will finish school next year. But and we all thought it would be beautiful to meet up again, even or because we will separate in a year. And it would be really, really lovely to see each other again half a year after we left school and be able to still meet all these people, because the connection stays. I feel like it stays even though time passes. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful idea to meet up, and maybe we can even arrange it with more people and maybe the whole group or something, so that the students maybe can talk to each other even though it's in a year or so.
I totally agree that it will be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olga, did you want to say something too? Yeah.
I just want to say that it's a lovely idea to meet each one of us, because, well, from our group, that depends. Not everyone finishes school this year. Some stay in Warsaw. Some, like me, will probably move away, but of course depends on Corona. And I think it is a lovely idea to exchange ideas and, well, of course, to meet in person, but even if we can't meet in person for some reason, for example, I would really love to go to Kiev or visit the places in Ukraine, which, well, would be something really interesting and really new for me and for my understanding of this particular part of history. I'm not sure how that will develop with Corona. Of course, it would be lovely, but I would think that as this online event is going pretty well, I would say, I think that online meetings are also a thing, and we could also try something in that direction, if, of course, in person doesn't work out. Although that would be really amazing.
Yeah, I would second that. Yeah, I think even if, say, Jakob and I or whoever cannot be there with you, I think that's a really, really nice thing to look forward to and something to strive for. Yeah, so please keep that in mind. I think that's a nice idea, Nadia. And who knows, maybe Kiev can host. That would be really a nice
I would
idea.
also like to add, may I?
Yeah, you can.
Yes, I think that it's great that we worked together on this project. A lot of people were involved. And I agree with those people who think that there can be continuation to this project, like meeting somewhere and exploring these places face to face. Okay, and I remember our meeting in Gansgagen Foundation in Germany. It was such a great impulse for us to continue our work on this project, although I'm not a history teacher. My history teacher supported me and some other people from Historical Museum of my hometown, from the local Department of Culture. So it was a great collaboration and additional motivation to me when I met all of you and we were connected and invited and united by the same idea to explore the history and to bring forward that history to the next generations. And our project, the outcome of the project is really amazing because it's an online exhibition which will stay and be alive forever in the internet, and every person can explore. And what can be great than learning a new experience and getting new knowledge from our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Oh, Anastasia, yeah.
Well, answering Nadia's question, I do really guess that we shouldn't draw the line. We don't have to draw the line at one particular place. We might also consider going on a tour, just as Jakob did, traveling from Ukraine and to Poland, and at the end of the day, we can travel to Germany afterwards. So we do also have to take this into account.
I see there's a tour forming. Fabian, just so you know, there's a lot of motivation and capacity here.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
It's Olga, a teacher from Sumy, Ukraine. Maybe we have a lot of wonderful materials. Maybe it would be possible to print something out, like a moving exhibition from city to city, from country to country, or a brochure, or a small book, or something like that. Something that we can touch, something that we can see not only online but offline. Just some proposition from me.
Wonderful idea, Olga. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Yeah, we'll take that with. We'll take that with. But for now, I'd say maybe let's open the online exhibition, because that is the purpose of today, to actually make it known to the world and spread the word. So all of you who are still there, please go onto the website, Bygone Nearby, and yeah, have fun. And Mikolai still wants to say a few words.
Yeah, I have a question. So because we're moving in the future topic, my question is there any possibility that in the future, when the whole crisis, whole corona, sorry, now it's better, I think. Like we were talking about the future, so my question is, when the whole corona crisis ends, is there a possibility that in the future we'll go to Kiev and like have this normal exhibition as it was planned in previous year, I think?
Yeah, thank you, Mikolai. Yeah, that is something we have to. So for now, we have to close the project, but of course we can see and try to find means to see each other again next year. I think for now, like you said, we have to wait for Corona to actually cease and make us able to move freely again. So we figure that's going to take some time. But of course, it's not a never say never. So let's all keep in touch, I'd say. Jakob, is there? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I would really like to emphasize on the possibilities that we have right now, that we could meet as we are right now, and to check out all the functions that the website has, because we can really unpack and unfold our each place and can get the research material and so on. So I think for now we are all in a stage where we react to the situation, how it is right now, and let's see what the future brings. I mean, hopefully it will be better, right? So for the moment it is like that, but you did a really good job and to react with the situation, and we're really happy that we have this website for now.
Yeah. So to all the visitors who are still here, please visit the website Bygone Nearby. I've said it so often today. BygoneNearby.com. Do it and spread the word. We're looking forward to a lot of visitors. And thanks for staying with us and for being with us today. And I think we're about to finish the streaming now, I'd say. So, bye-bye.
Thank you and bye.
Bye.